Dustin Forbes, voice of the Lethbridge Hurricanes. All right, Forbesy, let's go first off Lethbridge. You guys had Brandon. If someone's not watching that series, it looks like, you guys get by pretty easy 4-1. As a guy who's there, he's calling the games, he's watching it from a different lens. How did you see the first round series against Brandon go?
Yeah, I thought it was a tougher series than what 5 games would suggest, if I'm honest with you. And that's a credit to the Brandon Wheat Kings. They played hard, they played heavy. And I think the one thought that a lot of teams will have in the playoffs is if we're not going to win the series, let's get something out of it. And they were able to do that. They kind of got the Hurricanes a little bit banged up heading into round 2. No Leo Breyer. He's out for a little bit. Tristan Doyle as well. So there's some casualties out of that series. So Brandon really came to compete. And you might look at it, like you said, and go, 5 games, you get by pretty quick and pretty easy. But I think it was anything but that. And Brandon, really good team this season and struggled with injuries. And they kind of ran into injuries in the playoffs, too. They were without Roger McQueen again for games. Well, he left Game 3, didn't play Game 4, didn't play Game 5. So you take away a guy like that from a lineup, that certainly plays a factor. And from a Lethbridge standpoint, they got contributions from up and down the lineup as they anticipated, and that's one of the reasons why they went out and added to their team at the deadline, and is to get deeper and to be in a situation where when you do lose a guy or two, you still have an opportunity to win a hockey game and a hockey series. So we'll see what round 2 has in store against the really tough Calgary team starting tonight.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to say, right, is that's why these teams, build the way they do at trade deadline, because they're making a run at it. They get deeper. So if you do lose a guy or two, hopefully you can get by. Now, Calgary, on the other end, what are you expecting for them? Because they get by the Blades. I think that one's an easier round. What are you expecting from the Hitmen?
Yeah, they're as good as they come, I think, quite frankly. I mean, they play a pro-style game. They're defensively strong. They finished the regular season as the best defensive team in the Western Hockey League, and a lot of that because of Daniel Hauser. And they get by Saskatoon in the first round in a 4-game sweep, and Daniel Hauser didn't play. Anders Miller won all 4 games for the Hitmen. You look at his numbers in the playoffs, a goals against average of 1.5, a save percentage of .933 in those 4 games against Saskatoon. And Saskatoon was a young group. They sold at the deadline, getting rid of Melnendijk and Lazowski, and really kind of pivoted to the future and went youth. And Dan De Silva did such a good job to keep them in the hunt for the East Division and make the playoffs, even though it was a sell year for Saskatoon. But you get into the playoffs, and like cream rises to the top, and in that series, that's what happened. Calgary is a really good team. They did the same as Lethbridge and Medicine Hat in going out and positioning themselves to become what they think is a championship caliber team. And so when you look at this series, the Calgary-Lethbridge series, I think it's going to be an absolute dogfight. 2 teams that don't give up a lot, 2 teams that have the ability to score, and 2 teams that are positioned to go on a deep run beyond round 2. And it's kind of unfortunate in some way that they have to play in the second round, but that's kind of how the balls fall, and that's just how it is. And there's going to be one team that's very disappointed when you get to the end of this series, whether it's 4, 5, 6, or 7.
Yeah, we've seen that out here in the East, a number of times, with Swift Current loading and Regina and Moose Jaw. So in this one, do you think, Forbesy, that home ice will be an advantage either way?
I think home ice is always an advantage, Barney. I think from a coaching standpoint specifically, because you get to run your matchups and dictate the pace and things like that when it comes to the little nuances and intricacies of the game. But I think for both teams, they had such a large amount of success on the road during the regular season. You look at Calgary, they won 19 games on the road this year, which I think was tied for the most in the Eastern Conference with Brandon with the 19 road victories. And Lethbridge, in their final, I want to say 17 games in the regular season, were 12-3-1-1 on the road, and got the split in the first round against Brandon. Those games were in Verdun. So 2 teams that are comfortable on the road and at home. I think the biggest impact will certainly be the change and how the coaches use that to their advantage. And then I would say in the series, and it might sound a bit biased, but I think the crowd component will be an advantage for Lethbridge because the fans in Lethbridge have been phenomenal in the second half and typically are tremendous in the playoffs, where with the Saddle Dome specifically, you think about tonight, Thursday night in downtown Calgary, will there be a good contingent? We'll see. Hopefully the crowd's good, but I would say if there is one advantage, it would be the crowd aspect, and that would lean Lethbridge, I would think, in the series for home ice advantage. But I think when you get down to this point in the season, it doesn't matter really, I don't think, until you get deeper in a series and you're talking about a Game 6 or a Game 7.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you as well. So you answered it, is, Lethbridge, maybe a little bit smaller of a barn, I think more of a passionate fan base, so I could see it playing that way. Now, what are you're going to be calling a game here in a bit, but are you obviously one eye on your prep work and everything, and then one eye maybe on the WHL draft lottery and the balls falling tonight?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where they go. Of course, Edmonton, who just lost in 7 games to Prince Albert, has the best odds holding Moose Jaw's pick, and if you're a draftist, as I like to be, and pay attention to the picks move to the first round pick that Edmonton has of Moose Jaws, which is the best favorite to be able to take the first overall pick, which, as we all know, is likely, if not a slam dunk, certainly as close to it as a tap-in for Maddox Schultz, is the Edmonton Oil Kings, because of the trade that they made with the Moose Jaw Warriors, and that trade was Rylan Kovacevic and Wojtek Port. So it'll be interesting to see how they fall. As someone that is in the Central Division and has to play Edmonton 8 times, I hope that it's not Edmonton that wins the lottery tonight, but we'll see how it goes.
What's your take, though, on... Do you think if an Edmonton or Kelowna gets them, Kelowna obviously with hosting the Mem Cup, if we were just two guys at a pub having a pint here talking, do you think that they entertain, or one team entertains conversations from Regina more than the other one, or do you think that they'll hang on to this somewhat generational talent?
It's interesting to see what the offers would be, right? Specifically Regina. I like, not to disparage the Pats, because I think Al Miller's done such a terrific job there in trying to get that team positioned back to being a competitive team. But say you're Edmonton and you get the number 1 overall pick, what on Regina is enticing enough to give up that pick? Is there anything there? I don't know if there is. If I was a general manager wearing my GM hat, Kelowna's an interesting angle, because as you kind of outlined there, they're hosting next year the Memorial Cup, and they've got a lot of work to do. So if they get the first overall pick, what can they maybe explore in recuperation to help them next season in that deal? The other thing to consider is that in the new rules now, Maddox Schultz can play 34 games in the regular season, not the typical 5 or 6 that we had seen previously. So he could play literally half the season for whomever is lucky enough to draft him. And then once his season's done, he can come up and play the rest of the year, which typically happens come this time of the season once the U18 programs are done. So it'll be interesting to see how it kind of all unfolds tonight.
All right, Forbesy, you know what? Exciting time of the year. The other thing, too, quickly, we got about 20 seconds here. I got to ask you, like, Lethbridge Golf Course, did that open like in February? Did I see it? Did I see that right?
I haven't been out yet, but some of them opened up, yeah. I think it's February 28th, one of them opened, and early March for a lot of them. I know Paradise Canyon and Henderson, where I have a membership at, have been open since the beginning of March. So good golf in Southern Alberta. If you ever need to come, Barney, we'll go hit the link. Well,
hey, watching hockey and golfing in the spring, that sounds awesome. Okay, Forbes, you have a good call tonight. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks. Anytime.